and welcome back to my channel. In this video you have my September TBR. This TBR is guided almost 100% by all the prompts that I need to fulfill my Alchemist calling for the Magical Readathon. Now in years previous, all the years previous that G from Book Roast has run the Magical Readathon, she's held the autumn semester in August. This year she couldn't hold it in August, decided to hold it in September. That may be the month that it is held going forward. I actually love that. It came at just the right time. Starting in August with very specific prompts is always a little bit difficult for me, especially because we're just going back to school and all of that going on. But obviously if you've seen any of my reading vlogs, my recent recaps, anything from August, you'll know I read a lot in August. And I'm still reading a lot. I've got about a week left of August at the time of filming. But one of the things that helped me was not having any specific prompts, just the goal of the page numbers, and just getting through a bunch of the books that I'd had set aside and gotten audiobook copies of and etc. because of the Tarot Readathon in July. So I do have other goals that I usually work through each month, like series to start. I'm not worried about that at all because I started so many in July and still in August. I have only 2 left on that list. I'll probably try to do those October, November. I have 3 more months for that. When it comes to my Buzzwordathon book, I do have that assigned to one of the prompts, so I'll talk about that later. Then we have 24 in 24 books. I neglected to make a comprehensive list at the start of the year of what those books are. They're just on the shelf that I have back in my TBR closet. I'm pretty sure that I'm ahead on that. I'm not 100% certain. I think I pulled one of them to fulfill one of these prompts. If I haven't, I will get to it before the end of the year. When it comes to my Rick Riordan Presents imprint project, there's too many words in that goal. But when it comes to that goal, I'm caught up with all the currently published books. There are a couple arcs that I have that I could get to and will probably get to by the end of the year. And then when it comes to our fantasy, I'm ahead on that one. And I think I have at least one of my our fantasy books somewhere in here. So this particular TBR, I'm going just based on Magical Readathon. I usually try to find a book for every single prompt. It was taking a little bit longer because I've been reading more audiobooks and I want to make sure that I have audiobook copies of these books available because that takes some of the pressure to get it read off of my plate because I haven't had as much physical reading time. So it was a little bit more difficult to come up with these. I do, in what I'm going to talk about, have several that are not required for my career. I will try to remember to link the information from G from Book Roast in the description. It's a very well-known readathon. There's lots of resources online about this. The extra books, you can earn more guild reputation points, which is like the currency type thing that she has in the readathon. Obviously, I read more than just the base number of prompts that I need to pass my career, which is one of the ones with the most prompts. But I didn't try to find books for the classes that I don't have to take. I still have that available, and any of my extra books I might see if they fit for those so I can enter those in for the Archivists, which is my guild. Enough rambling, let's get to the books themselves. So before I get into the books themselves, each of the classes has 3 possible levels. For certain careers, you need just an O or an ordinary, which is the base level. For some classes, you need a Q, which is qualified. For some, like alchemy for me, because I want to be an alchemist, my character does, you need distinguished. So you need all 3 of those books to pass that particular class. For me, we'll start off with animal studies. In animal studies, I need only one of them, and that is the O, which is Phoenix. So you need a book with Phoenix on the cover or in the title. So I chose a book I just got recently, The Phoenix Keeper. This may or may not be on one of the Goodreads lists. It's pretty popular. I might have some difficulty getting an audiobook copy of this, but this is literally the only one that I had, and I'm really intrigued to read it. So this is one that I am definitely going to be reading this month. The other two are extras. I don't necessarily need those, but I have them on my list. One of them is a 24 and 24 book that has been now on 3 months worth of TBRs. Maybe I'll get to that one. And the prompt for that one for Q qualified is standalone. So I'm choosing The Pain Gap. Definitely a standalone. It's a nonfiction. And then the last one is had a cover change. So I just chose one of my book box books because obviously the covers always change for those. And that one is After the Forest by Kel Woods. Again, I've had this now on 3 months TBR. It was originally on one of my pile of possibilities for Tarot Readathon, then also on the pile of possibilities for August. Haven't gotten to it. So now it's going on for September. Next we have astronomy. In astronomy, again, the only one that I have to read is the O for ordinary. And the prompt for that one is a birth month release. So I'm going to choose one of my NetGalley books. That's the easiest way for me to find books by publication date. Then the other two are extra, and it starts with Castle on the cover. So for that one, I am choosing Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. And then distinguished was you rolled a d6 die, then whatever number it landed on, that was the hundreds that you were going to choose for page numbers. So if it landed on a 3, choose a book with 300 to 399 pages. Mine landed on 4, so I chose The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli. Then we have Alchemy, and for Alchemy, I need all 3. Now, I do not have physical copies of the first 2. For Ordinary, you needed to choose a book that would make you emotional. So I'm choosing And Every Day the Road Home Gets Longer and Longer. Not only have I gotten emotional at certain points in every single Frederick Bachman book that I've read, this one has the reputation to leave you sobbing. I do not have a physical copy of it yet, but I plan to get it. Then for Distinguished, you needed to choose a book that was indie published and then traditionally published. And so for that one, I'm choosing Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. This is her most recent release. It was indie published for only a very short time. It is coming out in October, I believe. I went on to NetGalley just last week, requested a copy, got an ARC copy. So that one obviously will have to be a physical or an ebook read. I don't mind. I loved Sword of Kaigen, so I'm really excited for Blood Over Brighthaven. And then lastly, D for Distinguished for Alchemy, it needed to have food on the cover. I went through a few different possibilities for this, trying to get one that had an audiobook copy. And so I settled on Dragon Fruit. Not only is the word fruit on there, but you have the dragon fruit itself right there. Next we have Inscription. And for Inscription, I need all 3 levels. And the prompt for Ordinary was to have all the letters of your first name in the cover. So I decided to choose one where the author has the same first name as me. So I chose The Poison Song by Jen Williams. To some people, I go by Jen. Most others, I go by Jenny. And I spell it Jeni. So there's Jen, and there's definitely I's all over the other place. Am I doing my full name? No. The likelihood of me trying to find a book with the full Jennifer on the cover, mainly because of the F, highly unlikely. Although, I could still count it because here it has the Winnowing Flame trilogy. So basically my whole name is on this, and I am so excited and a little bit nervous to get to this because I have loved this series thus far, and this is the concluding book in the trilogy. Then we have one where you needed to spin a color wheel to determine the color of the letters in the title. I spun it. It came up with gold. Again, I didn't record any of this, but believe me, I'm not trying to stretch these. So for that one, I chose Jade Fire Gold, definitely. Not only is the word there, the letters themselves are gold. And the third one, I am stretching a little bit. It was to choose a book where the author or the book was mentioned in the acknowledgments of a recent 5-star read. A recent 5-star read for me was the first book in N.K. Jemisin's The Broken Earth trilogy. In there, she acknowledged and thanked the editor of the entire trilogy. I'm choosing book 2 of that same trilogy, The Obelisk Gate. I cannot wait to get to this. Next, we have Spells and Incantations. For Spells and Incantations, I need just the first 2 levels, O and Q. The first of those is a 5-star prediction. I rarely do 5-star predictions, so this was a bit difficult for me. At first I thought a Bachman book, but I've already chosen one. And then because I really want to read this, I'm going to do The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons. I'm so hoping that I'm going to love this book because her first series, Course of Dragon series, is my all-time favorite series. So I'm so excited and also nervous, but I know that Jade from TBR Reads, whose fantasy taste I align with, has recently read this and loved it. So I hope I am not setting my expectations too high. But I'm nervous, but so excited to read this. For Q, this could have been difficult. The prompt was any book that G has shown in any of her videos. I didn't really have the time to scrub through a bunch of her videos, but I have watched a lot of her videos, including backlist videos, where she talked about the Raven Boys trilogy because she was picking it up because she's good friends with Jade from TBR Reads, and that's one of Jade's favorite series. And so I decided to put book 2 of that series, The Dream Thieves, on this list. This will also help me with my other goal that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, and that is clearing off series that I started pre-booktube off my TBR. So this will help with this goal. The last one, the D, that I don't necessarily need for this, I don't have a book for. It's still something off someone else's TBR. At this point, I haven't seen anyone's TBR for the upcoming month. I may or may not choose one. That'll be a later date decision. Then we have Restoration, and for Restoration I need only the O, and that is a night sky on the cover. I am saying that this sea scene here, because it is so dark, I'm saying that that's the night sky. I thought about getting to this book during August, didn't get to it because I kept being able to renew it, and I was going in order on my audiobook holds of the ones that were due next. And so this would come to be due next, but I was able to renew it. So I still have this on audiobook, and hopefully I'll get to this in August. This also will help clear another series off that list, and it will help me finish a series. The other two for that one are not required. Tell me why I put a massive chunky book on here? Only because I love the series. Q is a non-human main character, so I chose the Empire of Gold. This thing is massive. Like, it's my whole hand to get around it. This whole hand. And this will help me finish a trilogy. I still have The River of Silver, some short stories from the world to get to after this. I love this series. It's so good. It was another success of the series that I picked up last year. I may or may not get to this, but this is definitely one that I want to get to. Not required though. And then the last prompt was D for distinguished, and that prompt is a number in the title, and so choosing 5 broken blades. I don't know necessarily that I will really enjoy this, but this may or may not be on the Goodreads Choice Awards list, so I am trying to get to these when they come up and I have opportunity to read them. Second to last class that I need just an O in demonology, and this one was very tricky to me because the prompt was have someone who doesn't read choose a book for you. All of my family reads. So I couldn't go to my mom, couldn't go to my dad or my sister. They all read. So I stretched it a little bit. I have a lot of reluctant readers in my classroom, and they don't typically read. So I'm trying to find books that they would pick up and that they would enjoy. So I've decided to read Frizzy, and I discovered it's written by Claribel Ortega, the same author of The Witchlings, which I loved. And I have both Frizzy and Rizado, which is the Spanish version of it. I'm also trying to branch out into having Spanish language graphic novels for my classroom library shelves as well. So I am really excited about this one. That's how I stretched it, just to be like, they don't typically read. Is this necessarily a recommendation from them? No, but I'm keeping them in mind when picking this up, and they don't necessarily read. So that's how I'm stretching that. The next one that is not required is The Last Book You Bought or Borrowed. I could have used Frizzy for that one. I could have also used Rizado, but I want to read Frizzy first, and so I chose another one that I purchased in that same lump order, and I chose Mexicid, which is a graphic memoir, which is one of my favorite types of memoirs. Again, I'm trying to choose graphic novels to read and then put on my shelves for my students that they would be very interested in picking up. And then the last one on this list for Demonology, which I don't need, but I want to give myself options, is one of the oldest on your TBRs. So I went to Storygraph, sorted my to read pile by the books that I own, then went to earliest to added. And of those, we have Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepetys. This is, I think, the only Ruta Sepetys book that I have not read. And the fact that I still haven't gotten to it, kind of a travesty. This is one of her earliest. So I hope to be able to get to this at some point in the month. Lastly, we come to the last class that I need, and that is lore. And so I need ordinary and qualified. The prompt for the ordinary, which I realized later I could have spent guild reputation points to switch out, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Prompt for ordinary was a vampire book. Vampires are one of my least favorite, but I've read some recently that have been fine. There was one that I read a couple weeks ago, actually, that I really enjoyed. I'm forgetting which one. Cruel Illusions. The first one that I found on my shelves was The Immortal Rules by Julia Kagawa. This is definitely a vampire book. I'm starting a series, gonna give it a try. A lot of Julia Kagawa's books have worked for me. We'll see if this one does. Next we had translated book. So again, Risado could have worked for that. I'm not gonna put that on the list. I'm finally gonna do it. This is another 24 and 24 book. So if I read both The Pain Gap, which was an optional one, and this one, I'll have my two 24 and 24 books. One Piece. I'm going to try to start my One Piece journey. I haven't decided whether putting this on the list means I read the omnibus version and all three of the first 3 volumes. That's probably what it's going to be. But if I run out of time, I can count this prompt as fulfilled if I read the first volume. I am nervous, but I've read a lot more manga over the years since I purchased this. So I'm nervous, but I'm hoping for success. That is the last one that I'm required to read. And then one that I am definitely going to get to because it is my Readathon book for the month as the D for Distinguished, the final book for lore I don't necessarily need, but that is The Crane Husband by Kelly Barnhill. It's very short. The prompt was a retelling. This is a retelling of some sort of fairy tale, but I don't remember which one. Oh, The Crane Wife, I think is what it's called. So there you go. There's my TBR for September. I almost said August. Are all of the books that I have to read, plus 2 more that I don't have. What am I doing to myself? I don't know. I'm definitely in my reading era though. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.